I'm Valorie Hart. Do you think I'm worthy, homeworthy? Well, come on in. I have Bohemian soul. Here we are in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Valorie Hart. We're here in my home in Bay St. Louis that I share with my sweetheart and my partner Dave and my dog Lily and my kitty cat named Kitty Kitty Bang Bang. Presently, my latest project is author of a book called Bohemian Soul, published by Rizzoli. I've had many careers and interests, and you're going to hear about them today. This house is one of the few old historic properties left after all the hurricanes. The most important one, of course, was Hurricane Katrina. Bay St. Louis was basically ground zero for that hurricane. So I found this town a few years ago when I had an interior design client who wanted me to zhuzh up their house here. It was a second home. And they did not like coming here in the summer because it was so hot. So basically I lived in their house for the summer with my sweetheart Dave, and we liked this little town and thought maybe we would buy a second home here. Gradually, we started to talk about leaving New Orleans, selling our houses, and buying a house together here in Bay St. Louis. Taxes were going crazy, insurance, potholes, crime. We just had enough of New Orleans. We still love it. It was hard for us to leave. Dave had been there almost 40 years, and I had been there 20 years, happiest years of my life. So we started the search for this house, and we had looked probably for over a year, and we had a lovely agent who would send us listings, every week. And we came out to look at another house, and it wasn't for us. And she says, wait a minute, there's one that just came on the market. Maybe you'd be interested in it, but it's right next to the train track. Do you have a problem with that? And we said, no, let's go look at it. And the minute we saw this house, we knew that it was the one. Dave had been a contractor in New Orleans restoring old houses for nearly 40 years. So we both wanted an old house, and this one is smaller than both of our houses, and we knew we'd have to do some downsizing, and it needed love, it needed fixing up. There wasn't a lick of paint on it, it didn't have HVAC, but the bones were good, and we have kept everything probably intact. The whole house is made of beaded board, not a bit of sheetrock in this house. And it was probably built between 1870 and 1890, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And it's just cute. It has a little center hall, and I said I would never move again unless I moved to a center hall house. And here it is, my wish, even though it's kind of a small center hall. But anyway, that's our story. Here we are in the center hall of this house. Now, you would think that a center hall would be very grand in the tradition of Southern homes. This one is small. It's tiny, but it's still a center hall. And what a center hall means is that there are rooms off of it. There's two bedrooms, there's a living room, and behind is the kitchen that almost gives you like the feeling of a shotgun house, because you can see from the front door all the way to the back door. So this center hall, I was so excited to get to a house that has a center hall. I always wanted one. And I had great plans. I was going to have a settee. I was going to have a center hall table in the middle, but not so fast. It's a lot smaller than I realized when I saw the house empty. But what we've done in the center hall is we basically have made it a gallery, and we've hung our art salon style. That is almost from ceiling to floor. And there's all kinds of art, original, junk, folk art, and it's just a great combination. And we ran out of room, so up on the ceiling, where there used to be an old return vent, there's actually a painting on the ceiling as well. And I did not want to have a chandelier in this house in the center hall, which is traditional. But instead, I have my disco ball. And I know now that a lot of people are using disco balls, but I did it like a long time ago when I was in my 20s and danced at Studio 54. Anyway, this is a combination of our things you know, as Dave and I moved in together, he had a lot of furniture that I've tried to use to be sensitive, um, so that it wasn't just my house, my little dollhouse. So all these pieces of furniture are his that he's had for years, and I've just tried to make them work. And the lamps were mine. They're I think Nate Berkus, when he was on Home Shopping Network, I bought them years ago, and they're in mercury glass, and I love it. And then above, there's a paint drawing, charcoal drawing, that Dave's son Clinton did of our house, and he gave it to us as a Christmas present, which I think is the sweetest thing. And I'm running out of space for hanging art, so I hang the art on the doors. I painted all the doors black in this house. It's something that I did as a designer in my client's house. And when I first proposed it to many of my clients, they would say, "What are you, crazy? Black doors?" But they just work. And I love them. And then recently, Dave has put these architectural elements, these cornices above the transoms. He, as a contractor of restoring old houses in New Orleans for almost 40 years, has a collection of cypress architectural um, pieces. And so we're trying to use them so we can enjoy them. The rug is an old zebra rug I've had. It's actually cowhide, not really zebra. It's beat up, but I recommend them for anybody who has pets and kids. They're impervious to everything, and I love it. And of course, I have the ubiquitous ghost chairs because, these old houses are full of ghosts and they need a place to sit down. And what else can I do? Oh, let's come over to the bar. Every Southern home has a bar, and it's looked down upon, I guess, if you don't drink. So I have a great bar, and I do drink, and I have a whiskey every night. And these pieces of art here are very interesting. I taught tango for 20 years, Argentine tango, and these posters are of sheet music, tango sheet music, and they were in the studio that I taught tango in with my husband Alberto. So they made it here, they made the cut. But again, we're so fortunate to have high ceilings in this house. It's a very southern thing, so I could go all the way up with those tango posters. Another piece that is Dave's is this curio cabinet, which I never thought that I would ever come to love a curio cabinet. But what's great is that I have a lot of dishes because I like to entertain. So I kind of kicked all of Dave's knickknacks out and put my glasses and my dinnerware into this cabinet. And it's close to the kitchen and the dining area. So it's pretty convenient. It's not really a curio or a curiosity cabinet anymore. The top shelf has a few trinkets. Dave and I are trinket whores. We just love our trinkets. And so there's a combination of things here. There's a picture of Alberto and a dear friend John at Christmas time in silly hats, and there's some tango stuff, and then we get down to the serious. I give this sign to Dave when we first started dating, but that's actually a lie. I cook better than I kiss, but I didn't know if I would get him if I told him that. So anyway, this is all like glassware that I had, and I have like a variety of martini glasses because I like my martinis. And oh, someone just gave me these. These are beautiful pink coupes. It's just lovely. I don't know what I'm going to drink out of that, but I'll think of something. And then plates. This is a set that belonged to Dave's mother, and we recently got it out of storage, and I cleaned it up, and I actually had a dinner party using it. It's quite lovely. I think those are, I could be magnolias or gardenias, but very southern. Dave is originally from South Carolina. And then these are all my little plates that I use, and you know, who doesn't love a silver wine coaster? so lovely, so genteel. And it's just like become like a very useful piece of furniture. And so I had to stop being so prejudiced against brown furniture and curio cabinets because now I love her. Other thing, hats. I like hats. I have a bad hair day, I'll wear a hat. So I got a lot of them. Dave loves hats, so we've got them all around. So we're on the other side of the center hall as you come in the front door. So I love this vantage point. You know, you see the disco ball, you see all the art. And some of the interesting things that I collect are lovers' eyes. And they were things that were done like in the 18th century, little portraits of a sweetheart's eye. And they were worn as jewelry or little paintings. And it was kind of like a secret language. That people exchange, and you maybe could not be open in your relationship, but you could present this little piece of yourself, and I just love them. I've been attracted to them forever, and I can't afford them to collect the antiques. So a friend of mine gave me this lover's eye. It's painted in an oyster shell. How fabulous is that? I love that. That's my friend Jessica gave that to me. And then she also gave me this wonderful little plate with a lover's eye. She knows what I like. This is my friend Madison, who made this oil painting of an eye for me. And then the other ones are just junk prints, but they work. And that's another thing that I like to tell people, to mix things that maybe cost nothing, or you cut out of a magazine and frame it, or you have really precious things. But I love the lover's eye, and I would like to have my eye painted for my sweetheart, Dave. Then this little piece I really love. My friend Felix Plaza in New York, I went to art school with him 50 years ago, and we're still friends. And he is just the most wonderful artist. And he knows that I love these classical odalisques because I think I'm an odalisque. I lay around a lot like that. And she's just beautiful. And he sent me that little drawing. And then I had this little dollhouse like chaise, and it looks like she's laying on the chaise. I mean, I'm so corny. This is Dave up here when he was young. He plays bluegrass music, and there he is with his banjo. And he asked me, why do I have these candles with the ladies? And I said, I don't know. I just liked them and I bought them. I'm crazy. And these little paintings came from the 1980s, I think, at a big pier antique show in New York. And they're attributed to Bucks County artists. Ooh, there you hear the train. Now you know where I live, right on the track. All right, we'll let it go by. Some people ask if the train bothers us. We wouldn't have moved here if it bothered us. We actually like it. Then over here, this is funny. This was a beautiful bouquet that I got in the summer, but I let it dry. And I used to arrange flowers for a woman in New York named Madame du Mailleret. And she never let me get rid of the dead flowers. She thought that death and flowers were very beautiful. So I always have a dead flower, or a dried flower, if you want to be polite, arrangement. And I think of Madame du Mailleret following me around, reading French poetry to me as I arranged the flowers in her Upper East Side townhouse. It was crazy. Anyway, you come from the front porch through this door, and this door has the original glass. This was a style for these houses, this colored glass. But when we got this house, the door had been kicked in by vandals, the little bastards. And anyway, Dave redid the door and rebuilt it, and we've restored it. And I think it's just great that we still have that. And he also had a cypress architectural remnant, and we put the transom up and did the numbers. So we restored this whole front door situation, but it looks very much like it would have looked 100 years ago. So from the center hall, you can go into one bedroom on one side, another bedroom on the other side, and then straight through the kitchen. But to the left is my living room, and I'd like to go in there next. The first thing we did was put air conditioning and heat. Didn't have a system. We had the place painted white. We had the outside of the house painted because it looked sad. And other than that, we didn't do too much. We really did a soft restoration and renovation. It's, you know, you'll see as we go through the house, the biggest thing is that there's a kitchen area, and Dave recently enlarged it and did some wonderful things there because the termites had basically eaten it, and we had to do it. It was embarrassing when we would have people over and the ceiling would be like looking like it was going to come down on us. So that's the most recent renovation. Basically, I think that if you walked into this house, 100 years ago, it would basically be the same. My house in New Orleans was kind of known. I had a blog for years called The Visual Vamp. And because of that blog, my home was photographed for editorial, and I was on the Preservation Resource Center's Shotgun House tour a couple of times. So I had a very different point of view. And my late husband, Alberto, really didn't mind anything that I did. I mean, that poor man had to sit on a small girly couch for years, and so I had my things. Now Dave had his home, and he had a completely different look. I mean, this man never met a piece of brown furniture he didn't like. And so we had to combine and downsize at the same time. So I sold most of my furniture, and I had a lot of Dave's brown furniture that I've since come to love, but it was interesting trying to combine the two styles. And so this house is not very decorator, let's put it that way, but it's really charming. It's very colorful. It's very cozy, and it has kind of like the aesthetic of a English cottage, I guess you would say. I have been influenced by European interiors since I traveled to Europe for the first time when I was 22. So it has elements of that, and it's just a big happy hodgepodge. All right, so I'm coming from the center hall into our living room, and it's a pretty nice living room for such a small house. I think this house is about 1,200 square feet, but it looks bigger because high ceilings and, the rooms being separate. I'm not a fan of open floor plan. I like individual rooms. I think it's more human in scale. But anyway, this room is unusual because it has two doors. And we believe that this was a house for railroad workers, and that maybe this space was rented out and people used that door instead of the front door. But I didn't want two doors, so I decided to camouflage it. And I have been a big fan, like everybody else in the world, of that fancy Degournay wallpaper. But who can afford it? And I was not knowing if wallpaper should be applied to antique beadboard. So what did I do? I went to Plan Z, and I bought wrapping paper. This is lots of sheets of wrapping paper. And from my old photo stylist days, when you just, with smoke and mirrors, I stapled it up like in a mad fit. So, and another thing, I hate all this talk about, oh, you shouldn't do accent walls. Well, my mother taught me about accent walls. And I think if an accent wall works for you, do it. And I wanted to also camouflage the big black hole of the TV screen. And when the wall was white, man, that thing like jumped out at you. So putting this very lovely hand-painted wrapping paper up really helped this wall. And then the same company, it's called Society 6. It's really cool. They have artists that make these things, and they will make the same print on coffee mugs, on T-shirts, on bedspreads. So they had a curtain. So I said, well, that's perfect. And so I love how the print exploded, from the little bird to the big bird. So it's kind of my way to deal with an awkward situation. And I love it. I hope you love it too. Then, very, very fortunate to have the original fireplace to this house. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because a hurricane blew the chimney off a long time ago. But it has the summer screen. That's what this metal screen is called in homes, in southern homes. And you put this up during the summer months to disguise the hearth. And this probably burned coal because the hearth is very shallow. But what I have inside of it is a tacky fake fire with logs that has like a little flicker, and it's a heater. And I actually use it in the winter. It makes it very cozy. And I have the mantle kind of tricked out in the autumn theme because there's no leaves turning this color here, so I use fake ones to make me think of my time in New York. And I'm doing Thanksgiving soon, so I'm just putting up some subtle Thanksgiving decor because I am thankful every day of the year. This could stay up all year. And I have that big nod to loving English decor. So I have my staffies here. You know, it's so corny. I'm corny, but I like it. And then I have little coastal things. I call it sly coastal. You know, when you move to a beach property, people go overboard with making a theme, coastal theme, you know. And I didn't want to do that. You know, I wasn't going to have any like flip flop key holders or, you know, this way to the beach pillows or anything. But I still wanted a nod to it being a coastal house. And I imagined, in my big imagination, that if a sea captain lived here, he would collect all things from around the world and blah, blah, blah. So I have this beautiful little pond boat. And I also have, you know, this picture of a sailing ship that I got in Cape Cod. And when I travel, I don't buy like a souvenir T-shirt. I go to antique stores and try to buy something of the region. And above it is this beautiful piece of art by a New York artist called Jennifer Lane. And I just love all those shades of blue. Again, very sly coastal, a nod to the blue. So I have a lot of books, as you can see. And believe it or not, when I moved here, I downsized and gave a lot of my books away. And when I unpacked my books, I was like, oh, I thought I downsized. And I have no room. I collect, you know, art books and design books, and I love them. And I'm in a few of them. And I didn't know what to do. So I had this tower, and that always held books. So, you know, they just end up tucked away wherever I can do them. And here again, it's just you know, where I can fit them. And I like to have them handy. There's an old Eastlake music stand back there that belongs to Dave, and I've crammed it full of books. And this is a mid-century modern, you know, lucite table, and it's a little book nook. And then, of course, this table was a kitchen table that Dave had, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, what? An oak pedestal table? Ugh. But I've come to love it, and it fits in this corner, and I can put books on it, and I can put flowers on it. And I have little artwork here. These are my ladies. This is the Baroness Pontalba. This is, again, my friend Felix Plaza did the classic Manet picture, and that's Victorine. She was also a very nice artist in her own right. And this is Marie Laveau, painted by a very prolific New Orleans artist named Andrew Lamar Hopkins, who's in my book, Bohemian Soul. His house is unbelievable. And then this is a lady I got, and I painted orange because why not? And a little Fornasetti plate. So it's kind of like my ladies' gallery, which brings me to another story about this room. If you look around, you're going to see portraits. And one is of me by a dearly departed friend of mine, Louis St. Louis, and that is also his painting. So he's with me every day. And again, it was my smartass version of an old English country house in their portrait gallery. So this is my portrait gallery. And I do love all of the paintings. My friend Jenny Andrews did this boy. I think he's just so beautiful. Mateo, another friend, that's his self-portrait. This is Ashley Longshore in her early days. Going further is a portrait of my dearest friend in the world, Michael Palke. and below him is his friend Kenny, who has since passed on. So I love the portrait gallery, and it's a way, like if you have art, to maybe group a collection, like if you collect landscapes or portraits or whatever, and group them in one room, and it has an impact, I think. And I love that people always think that I'm Audrey. They say, "Is that you?" I wish. I say, "Wish." And then there's another great portrait that was done of me in 1984 by a wonderful fashion illustrator named Mats Gustafsson, and he's rather famous. So he did this for my birthday in 1984. I think I look exactly the same, don't you? So moving along, we have a lot of furniture in here, and yet I don't think it feels like cramped. But I learned a trick from a classic interior designer named Billy Baldwin. And he always said that your chairs should look like they're talking to one another, that your furniture should be arranged, as they're having a conversation. So again, I like to have people over, and I like to have seating. And, I can use the ottoman from the Eames chair as separate seating. Got these two chairs. And these chairs are interesting because they're really inexpensive. They were like a couple $100s. And I had orange velvet chairs in the French style in my New Orleans house, and I sold them. And then when I moved here, I was so sad that I sold them. And I said, well, I got to get some more orange chairs. And I got these because it was like a nice transition between Dave's style and my style. And I love that they have a slight mid-century modern feel. And I like to mix up mid-century antiques and contemporary, and I like to just play and start a dialogue between different pieces and periods of furniture. And how I make them work, I don't know. It's like mixing patterns. If you start counting the patterns in this room, there's probably 15. And people say, well, how do you make it work? And I said, I don't know, just luck. So anyway, this is a little throwback to the 1970s, this wicker elephant table. I think my mom had one. This is a new one. I just had to have it. And when I brought it in the house, Dave said, what is that? And I said, well, it's an elephant table. Don't you think we needed one? So, and the piece behind is his credenza that he has had for probably 40, 50 years. And I think he bought it for $20 in Iowa. And we had to have this piece in here because he treasures it. So I made it work by putting chairs in front of it. No, cut that out. So this is a house where animals live and do what they want. So the cat, the dog, they're on the furniture. Very English to live with the dog here. So Lily has her dog bed next to my chaise, which I spend a lot of time. This belonged to Dave's mother, and it's a secretary. And at first I was going to use it as a desk, but now it's just junk, my junk. And I always had mood boards. I guess they call them vision boards now, where I would put interesting things to inspire me, or I'm sentimental. People send me things. So I just took the fretwork of the glass doors and started shoving things in it. I guess it's a little messy, but I like it. It's a mood board to me. But inside, if I don't have enough junk out, I have a lot of stuff in here as well. Oh, there goes my thing for the door because it's rickety, but I have a whole bunch of things. Every year, Dave's son gives me a Tiffany ornament for the Christmas tree, so I save those boxes. And it's just stuff, but it's sentimental and cute. And there's my Jeff Koons dog. Yeah. So, and oh, this is fun. This is a tambourine when I was in the rock band. It was called Raven. I was the lead singer. I still have my tambourine. So what else? Okay. So let's close her up. Oh, did you know that the pineapple is a sign of hospitality? So I have a little pineapple, but I have big hospitality, even though it's a tiny pineapple. There we go. All right, so we'll close her up. And I got to put my high-tech wedge in here. Whoop. Because the house is crooked and the doors fly open, so that goes in there. See, that's a tip for homeowners, the wedge. made out of orange cardboard. The rug is Dave's, and I love it. There was a point like from 2008 to about 2012 where traditional rugs were just out, out, out. And you'll see it because I have them in my bedroom, but cowhide and Moroccan rugs and all that was the rage. So again, Dave had this rug and I was like, well, I don't know. What am I going to do with it? Now I love it so much. It has great coloration and it hides a multitude of sins of, well, I like to think it does. Maybe not on camera. I hope there's not dog hair all over it, but it's great. And it was the perfect size for this room. And because I wanted the old floors to show up. You know, we didn't refinish the floors as such. They got a light screening and a cleaning and then a very light coat of polyurethane on them, but they were not refinished like down to the nub. Then they're the original old floors. This is a funny story. You know, I'm buying furniture. It's my money. I can do what I want. But still, when you're in a partnership, you like to respect your partner. And Dave thinks I spend too much money on the house, which I probably do. So I saw this chaise lounge, and it was on Etsy, Regretsy. And it was a discontinued, brand new, one of a kind. And I just love this print. It was like so Florentine or something. I just wanted it. And I had another couch with a chaise. That's another story. But I missed the chaise lounge. So it arrived. I was trying to time the arrival when he was like on a road trip so I could just sneak it in. But it arrived early and it was near his birthday. So I told him it was his birthday present. He never believed me. And of course, I sit on it all the time in the dog. And I always say, Dave, you know, you can sit here if you like. He goes, you mean my chaise lounge? I said, yeah, your chaise lounge. But anyway, it's great. And I often open my laptop. This becomes my office. Some more Sly Coastal. I couldn't help myself. I got all these little vintage sailboat pictures. I was very inspired by John Darien's beautiful house on Cape Cod. I couldn't do what he does, but I went a little crazy. But it's just Sly Coastal. It's not like beating you on the head. And then up there is some Majolica. I had a huge Majolica collection from New York to New Orleans, but I sold most of it. And those are the pieces that didn't sell. And a couple of them came from Lauren Bacall. I did a party at her house in the Hamptons, and she gifted me a couple of her Majolica collection. So they could have sold, but they didn't, so it was meant to be. Then this little guy, this is another thing. This is by a Southern artist called Butch Anthony. And again, I can't afford like a big piece. So if you're collecting art, if you buy the smalls, they're often affordable. So I have a nice little Butch Anthony, and I love her. She's so like kinky with that mask and the bone. He always uses bones, and I'm like, I like that kinky lady, so I got her. So then, as we move around my expansive living room, talk about my silk drapes. When I worked at Perch, I worked for drapes. I never knew anything about silk drapes, but Southern women love silk taffeta drapes. They're like ball gowns for the window. And I got obsessed, but I had to have them in this lime chartreusey green, which is one of my favorite colors, to just not be so much of a typical Southern belle with like pale blue or something. And I've had them now since about 2009, and they're starting to rot because silk rots from the sun that comes in on them. And I said, oh my God, I'm like those customers who used to come into Perch and have their silk drapes for 25 years, and they'd be like in rags, and they'd have to like cough up the money to get new drapes, and they were so shocked at how prices had changed. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll let them just hang as rags. But I love them. And they were in my house in New Orleans, and they just fit in here. And again, it's kind of like this luxury silk drapes, you know, with like in this little funky little cottage that once maybe housed railroad workers. And I just love that. I just think it's grand. The story of this couch. I had a couch. Dave came into my life, and I had like little dollhouse furniture. So when he came into my life, I bought this big sectional with a chaise, and I crammed it in my little shotgun house in New Orleans, and it moved here. And then we got a dog. and she was on it, and the dog hair was driving me crazy. I couldn't keep up with it. So I gave it away. And I said, I'm going to get a leather couch. What man doesn't love leather? And so I got this sofa, and Dave doesn't really like it that much. He sits on it once in a while. And I covered the cushions in these little velvet slip covers that you can buy, I won't say the A word, but you know where. And I love that because leather is not dog friendly. Can you believe it? After several couches, we finally have a sofa that I think is nice, but only me and the dog love it. So here we go. And that's about it for the living room. Shall we move on? Well, the professional journey is a long one. And I'm art school trained, and I always believe that anybody who goes to art school can do anything and everything to do with visual arts. So I'm in New York. It's the 80s. I'm in a rock band. I'm working in a wonderful restaurant in Soho called the Soho Charcuterie, and staff lunch, and I'm eating my staff lunch after the break between lunch and dinner. And the owner of the restaurant was doing the restaurant flowers, and I'm watching her. And she says, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "Well, I'm just watching you do the flowers." And she goes, "Well, do you think you could do this?" And I said, "Yeah, what's the big deal? It's just a 3D flower painting." She goes, "Okay, well, from now on, you go to the flower market, you do the weekly flowers, and any off-premise parties we have, you're going to do the flowers. This is the budget, go." And I was like, okay. So I didn't know anything about the flower market on 28th Street in New York. And they go, and you have to go really early in the morning. So that kind of cut into my nightlife. And I didn't know the names of the flowers. I didn't know how they were sold. And so it was a whole education. But the guys down there thought I was just great because I was this quirky looking art chick coming in to a man's world. Back then, there were no independent floral designers or event designers. There was a man's world, and it was mainly the old Greeks that had those flower shops. So that was the beginning of my education. And so I would do the restaurant flowers, and customers would come in. I was a maitre d' there, by the way, for 6 years. So the customers would come in and say, ooh, who did these flowers? They're kind of cool. And I was, well, I did. Well, they say, I'm having a little dinner party. Would you come in? So I started doing flowers. And I got my first big job. It was at the Cooper Hewitt Museum, and it was huge. Martha Stewart was there and oohed and ahed over my flowers and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't even have a bank account then. I would put money through my future husband. I was married a few times, so this was another husband. I would put it through his account. So this was a job that was thousands of dollars of payment. So the company calls me up and says, where would you like the check sent? And I said, well, can you make it out to my boyfriend? Because I put it in his, oh, no. We need to have a company name. And so I'm there thinking on the phone, I'm talking on the phone. I said, So they said, well, what is the name of your company? And I said, Valorie Hart Designs. So they said, okay. So they sent a messenger over with the check, and I had this check, and I couldn't put it through my boyfriend's bank account. So I went down and started the little doing business as yourself, and I started my business that way. And that business grew. I became an event designer after the restaurant closed, and I had 15 years of being an event designer in New York with my own business, and got burned out, got divorced, mother died, cat died, turning point in my life, universe trying to tell me something. I was probably about 43, and I had gone to Spain for one of the events that I did there for the IMF, and I liked the Spanish-speaking culture. And I was very obnoxious with my phrasebook Spanish. And Christie's, the auction house, was one of my clients. And I said, please, please, invite me to parties with Spanish-speaking people so I can practice my Spanish. Okay, so I go to the party. And I had long blonde hair then and dressed in these ersatz, kind of like Chanel knockoffs. And the South Americans gravitated towards me. They thought I was a famosa rubia tenida de Buenos Aires, one of the famous blondes of Buenos Aires. So I start speaking my crackpot phrasebook Spanish, and they go, oh, she's an American. But anyway, I had recently been divorced, and they traveled like in groups and did things. So we would, oh, darling, let's go dance the salsa. Oh, darling, let's go to the movies. Oh, darling, let's go to this cocktail party. And we would often end up at my apartment. I had a nice large apartment on what I call the Chillage on the border of the Village in Chelsea, late at night, and somebody would, we'd make pasta or, drink wine. And so part of my rock and roll thing, I had a lot of world music, and one of the guys was going to put on a CD, and he noticed that I had Argentine tango music. Oh my goodness, they said, oh, she's got tango music. Let's teach her to dance a tango. So when we go to the black tie parties and they play tango, we can dance. Well, that led me on the whole journey of learning to dance Argentine tango, which led me to California to this thing called Stanford Tango Week, where I met my future husband, Alberto Paz, and became tango dancers and teachers, and we danced and taught all over the world. In the meantime, one of the places that we taught was New Orleans. We came to do a workshop there in 1999. And we liked it so much because he had a house in California and I had left New York to live with him in California. And I did not like California. Sorry, California people. And so we decided to move to New Orleans. And things were great. And we were making a living, teaching, and we wrote a book about tango, and we published a magazine about tango. And then we had a nice nest egg from selling his house in California. But then the 2008 crash came, and we lost a lot of money in our retirement account. So I decided to go back to work, and I got a little job at a home decor store around the corner from me called Perch on Magazine Street. And I worked there for about 3 years, and I learned a lot about interior design. And again, people gravitated towards my style, so I started to pick up little freelance interior design jobs on the side. And that was pretty good, but it was a different kind of focus. I wasn't like driven like I was in my 40s, and it was more casual, but I did have a nice little career. And I also worked for New Orleans Homes and Lifestyle magazines with my photographer, Sarah Essex Bradley. We've done a couple of books together. And I was a stylist. It was back in the day when they actually paid money for a stylist. And I wrote the articles and we produced them. So that was like about 10 years worth, and led to another book. And here I am now living in Bay St. Louis and working on my third book called Bohemian by the Bay. So now we're back in the center hall, and we're going to check out the bedrooms. And this house has 2 bedrooms. I look like an airline hostess. And Dave and I have separate rooms. And I recommend it to couples. When we want to cuddle, we get together, but he gets to decorate his room the way he likes, and I get to decorate my room the way I like. I stay up late watching TV. He goes to bed early, so it just works out. So Dave's room is very sweet. He has a lot of antiques and furniture from his family and his own artwork and architectural details. And it's his and his guitars and his TV. And he has a little ensuite bathroom that he just created in a recent renovation. And it's wonderful. And I'll come and visit him, and he'll come and visit me. And if you come this way, we'll go, and I'm just across the hall. We often talk to each other across the hall or text each other. So, we're so modern. Okay, so this is my bedroom. And I was very influenced by a book that I read back in the 80s called A French Woman's Bedroom. And it was very feminine and it had art. But I like feminine, but I don't like over the top girly whirly. So anyway, this bed was a bed that I bought when Dave came into my life because I had a little tiny double bed that I was sleeping in then, and it was like too small. So it's ironic that I'm sleeping in this bed by myself, but I still like it. And then the wall is covered with fabric. And I had this same fabric print in my New Orleans living room. And this is another stylist trick. You know, I don't starch it, I don't do anything. It's stapled up. And fabric was very inexpensive. I was inspired by a Clarence House fabric that Sarah Ruffins Costello had in her New York apartment, but I couldn't afford that. So was like probably like $7, $8 a yard. But I think it looks great. And then the mirror is a nod to those French mirrors, the sunburst. But this was done by Colin Cowie, the event designer, and it's kind of glammy and blinged out, and I loved that. And the sconces came from Etsy, and the tapestry is made in France, so you know I had to have it, you know. So anyway, then this screen was a gift from one of Dave's friends who left New Orleans. And this house has no closets, and I needed a closet. So at first we just hung some racks, and that was fine. And I had a shoe rack with like 50 pairs of dance shoes. And I wasn't happy. So I ended up creating this closet space behind the screen. Don't pay attention to the man behind the screen. You know, and it works. I mean, you know, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm used to small spaces, small closets, small kitchens, small bathrooms. So it works for me. And you can see all my junk. You know, I still costume. This town has a festival every other minute that you costume for. Witches Walk, Dolly Should for Dolly Parton, Frida Fest. So I have a lot of costumes and I still costume. So this is it. I just closed that up. And right outside my closet, my walk-in closet, is my vanity. And I think every woman needs one of these, a dressing table. I really do my makeup and my hair here all the time. And I've had this one since we moved to New Orleans. It was a junk piece that I bought for $10, and I've painted it many times. And the lamps come from a shop in Sag Harbor called Ruby Beats when I had a little house in the Hamptons. And I put a mirror on this, had a mirror cut to do the top. So it's kind of glam. And then, a little Frenchy stuff. But this above the door is the latest acquisition by a New Orleans artist called Georges Darreau, and I just absolutely love him. He's since passed on. And behind this door are all my caftans. You know, I'm at that age where wearing a caftan is very glamorous and comfortable and hides a lot of sins. And these are some of my wigs that I have, you know, that I wear for costumes. And this one's going to be for the Dolly Parton costume event here called Dolly Should. Every year on January 11th, which is her birthday, the Mockingbird Cafe up the street has a Dolly contest where you costume contest, and everybody dresses up like Dolly Parton and we all have a good time. So that's a fun thing, my wig. And what everything is hanging on is an old candelabra. I don't think you can see it. And I didn't have room for it. And, you know, so I just turned it into my caftan holder. It's very glamorous. These are ballet shoes from when I was a dancer, when I was a child. I've kept those all these years. And then if we swing around this way, this is a little French settee that I had in New Orleans. And this was one of the dollhouse pieces of furniture that I tortured both Alberto and Dave with. So now it's ended up in my bedroom. And I do sit here sometimes and have coffee, you know, when the dog is on the bed and won't give me any room. And then this I call my wall of shame, which that's a joke. I mean, I'm very proud of these photographs. I was an artist model, putting myself through art school back in the day. So I have a lot of photographs, you know, from photographers that I modeled for. And there's a picture of me and my rock band in the 1980s. It's called Raven. Pictures of Alberto and I. That's our book cover. We wrote a book called Got a Tango. There's one here, oh, Audrey Hepburn and my friend Daniel, who has passed away. I did a party for her, flowers at the Museum of Modern Art for a party that was given in her honor. So it was before cell phones, cameras. So that was like somebody snapped that shot and I got that little print. And just interesting things. These are the latest I post for a photographer in New Orleans named Roy Gust, and he was trying to do a series called the Belloc Project, and he was doing photographs in the manner of E.J. Belloc, who filmed Storyville. So at 66 years old, I was taking my clothes off for Roy. And this is a funny photograph that a friend gave me of a dog in Mexico, Lisa Conrad. She's a very good photographer. And she said, nobody else but you would hang that. And she's right. I love it, that little doggy woggy. So, all right, let's walk around to my bathroom, which I share with my cat, Kitty Kitty Bang Bang. And Dave put a cat door in for her. That's her entrance. And the reason she has to have a cat door and this door closed because Lily will eat her food, or worse, when the litter box is out. So we keep this door closed and Kitty Kitty Bang Bang can go in and out and eat in peace. So this bathroom is small. But as I say, I'm a New Yorker and any bathroom is going to be small in New York. But what I have that I didn't have in New York are 2 windows in my bathroom. I'm so thrilled. So recently, Dave made a bathroom for himself. So I got to decorate my bathroom the way I wanted. So I did this, again, peel and stick, rose wallpaper. I don't know. I was going for a Dorothy Draper look. I don't know if you know who she was. She was a woman that had the first interior design business, I think, 1920s to 1960s, and her most famous project was the Greenbrier Hotel. And she did these big prints, like big roses and the banana leaves and stripes. And she mixed it all together, and it was so exuberant. And her motto was, decorating is fun. So I inherited the blue tile floor. So I said, well, what can I do? I didn't want to do like, the typical bathroom. So I said, well, red looks good with blue and blah, blah, blah. And then I also had these posters that I got. I got a poster, in Havana, and it had the colors of red, white, and blue. And I got another poster of the Rolling Stones when they were in Havana. And I had this ugly shelf here. And I said to Dave, do you have a piano hinge? And he says, why? And I said, well, I want to put this piece of art. So the art has become my cabinet door. And I think that's a cool tip for anybody to do. You can do it on a recessed wall, but it's so cool. So I got my cabinet door here. And that's my bathroom. And I love it. It's just big enough for me. And Kitty Kitty Bang Bang. She's a good roommate. What makes a home have soul? Well, it's the people in it. You can have a lot of things, but if you don't have people who love the home, love each other, then it's just a pile of stuff. And okay, so in terms of decor, that pile of stuff, I think that art, books, flowers, that's my mantra, are things that give a home soul. I think personal collections give a thing a home soul. I think being fearless and not following slavish trends gives a home soul. Not becoming addicted to Instagram and trying to copy Instagram homes. In the old days, it was looking at magazines, and I remember there was a movie called The Goodbye Girl. She's an actress, and he's an actor, and he gets a job and he gets a bit of money. And so she finally gets to decorate their apartment, and she's got a magazine, and she's going to Bloomingdale's, and she's buying all the furnishings and painting it and putting it all together. And the scene is she's looking at the magazine and she goes, doesn't really look like this. And so that was a lesson to learn, that you can be inspired by things, but trying to copy them is soulless. So, you find out what you want. I mean, even as a young person, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. And if you're true to that, your home will have soul. I love my house because it's us. We have a combination of our things. I love to have people over. I mean, it's such a cliche. I love to entertain, but I mean, it's true. Love to have dinner parties. Been having dinner parties since I've been in my 20s and lived on St. Mark's Place and dragged a table in from the street, and made, chuck pot roast and, but I mean, I love the age of it, that it's an old house. I love that it's in this community of Bay St. Louis, which is a very artistic community and very welcoming. I've never had such wonderful women friends. It's just a little gem, and it's just the perfect size, except for storage. I wish I had more storage closets, but I love so many things about it. I love the color. I love the feeling. I love the comfort. I love that it's ours, that we were able to buy it with no mortgage, and this will be our last stop, I reckon. We're coming into the kitchen now, and these handles, they're for sailboats. They're teak. It's another sly coastal thing, but it's really good for me because I'm an old lady and I didn't want a railing, and I got these to hang on to. So that's a nice tip. Instead of those ugly, stainless steel grab bars, I've got sailboat handles. Anyway, step down 2 steps into the kitchen. This was an addition that was probably put on the house about 100 years ago. And it's common in Southern homes to add these kind of spaces for kitchens and bathrooms. And so when we first moved here, it pretty much ended here. And it had a couple of columns and some sheetrock arch. It was strange. And the sink was over here, and had an old stove from the 1930s that didn't work. For the first couple of years, I used a hot plate, a microwave, and a toaster oven because we didn't know what we wanted to do. So recently, a few months ago, the termites had eaten this place down to the nitty gritty. It was embarrassing. So Dave redid this whole kitchen, but he did it keeping it looking old, looking original. So all the walls have been redone, insulation put in, and where he could use the old boards he did, but he did a seamless thing. And then I asked him to, honey, do you think we could, one of those. So the sink was over here, and I wanted to look out the window. I mean, that's where a sink should be. So this unit, he moved it over. He made the window smaller. It was a much larger window. He uses his collection of architectural elements, and he has all this great stained glass. And so I said to him, I know we don't want sheetrock in this house, but could we just have one sheetrock wall because I want to do wallpaper? And he was like, what? I want to do subway tile. I said, no, I want to do this wallpaper, this beautiful scenic mural that's unexpected in a kitchen because we dine, and it's kind of like a nod to a formal dining room in the kitchen. At least that was my story, and I was sticking to it. So this came via Etsy from somebody who prints this in Poland, and I just love the way it looks. And it kind of just makes the place so special. And I like blue and white, as you can see, so we ran with that. The floor mats are interesting because this floor is very old, and it has a lot of cracks, and it catches a lot of food. So I found these floor mats. I was looking for them, and they were very expensive. And I found these at Home Depot. Like $100 for one of them. And so we throw these down, and it really cuts down on all that mess, and they're easy to mop. And I think it looks cool. It's very vintage looking. These cypress pieces are from Dave's collection. He would take things out of old houses, and when people wanted to have new things, and he never met a piece of old cypress that he wouldn't bring home. So we would have these dipped, and again, he didn't use these for years, and we use them here, and I mean, it's great. This is my pantry. So that's cool. So then on the other side of the kitchen, I finally got a stove after a couple of years, and I chose this little Italian stove. I call it my Italian lover. He's just so sweet and cute, and I love it. And he burns hot, so I've had to learn to cook like, slowly. And then I know, you don't like microwaves, I'm telling you. But we wanted a microwave. Dave uses it, I use it. And to find one that fit above this stove was hard. And it's vented, and it's not just noise. He vented it to the outside, so the fan really does work. And I like this black, even though it shows fingerprints. And above it, because I am an Anglophile, I had to have an F&M hamper, of course, darling, like all the rich people have, but I'm not rich. And then over here is another old dresser that painted white. It was Dave's. It's one piece of furniture. He let us paint white. And all these little plate racks I've had for years. And, an English home always has a plate rack. And this hanging thing here came with the house. It's like so cool. So I love it. I mean, I really do a lot of cooking here, and it's all very convenient. The table belonged to Dave. And again, I didn't want a kitchen island. I'm over islands. I don't know about you, but I like having a table, and we sit at it, and it's a great prep area. So, I don't think you always need an island. So coming around, da, 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 da. So Dave opened all this up, and this was a combination laundry room and bathroom, and he reconfigured the whole thing. There's a little laundry room behind there, and he made an ensuite bathroom for his bedroom and changed this all around because I was like, I miss my dining room in New Orleans. So this table I got for here. It used to be in the kitchen part, but now I have like a dining area, or like I like to call it a dining room, and it's great. And if I have more than 6, 8 people, I can always add another table here. Before the kitchen was renovated, I had a sit-down Thanksgiving dinner for 14 people. Tables, we were all crammed in. If you got in the middle, you couldn't get out to use the restroom. You were stuck. This is another Cypress piece, another butler's pantry thing that Dave pulled out of an old house. And it didn't have any glass, so I put the fabric in. I did the striped fabric, and I even finished it nice on the inside. And I love it. And put these little green knobs on. And it holds like my dishes, and glasses, more dishes, because, more is more. I need more. And then this little window seat was Dave's, to another Cypress piece that we could finally bring in the house to use. And I got a cushion and just zhuzhed it up. This painting came from my first husband. I married my high school art teacher 50 some years ago. He's getting old, and he has a lot of his paintings, and his kids don't want them. And so he asked me if I would like one of his paintings, and I said yes. And when I first got it, Dave was like, oh, you're not going to hang that in our house. It's so depressing. I said, honey, just work with me here. We got trees on the wallpaper. It's going to be perfect. We got trees over here. It's blue. Believe me, it will work. Now he loves it, and I think it's grand. And the artist's name is Bill Hart. So, and then this is a piece from Dave's grandmother, this chest. It holds linens. He put that stained glass window in, again, from his collection of stained glass. And over the door is a mule shoe for good luck that Karen West, one of my first friends here in Bay St. Louis, brought to us. We were in this house maybe a couple months, and I had a housewarming party. We didn't have any grass, any driveway, nothing. Had to have a party, and she brought that for good luck. And then I love those door handles on the laundry room doors. Very grand and humble, big brass things on that humble door that Dave made from scratch. I mean, he's just amazing. And later on, I'll set the table for you for Thanksgiving. I love my marble table, but for Thanksgiving, I want to use a tablecloth. And this is kind of an Indian block tablecloth that I've had for a lot of years. And it was once on a larger table, but I don't care. We'll make it work. And I like the coloration. I don't do like traditional things. I don't know if you've noticed, but instead of doing like, cornucopias and orange colors. I've done that before, but this year I decided to do something a little softer. So I like that. And then this could be a shawl, a scarf, a sarong, but today it's going to be another layer because I like to layer things. More is more in my book. So layer on this color. I think it's really pretty. It was a birthday gift from my hairdresser. She's so sweet. All right. I think that'll be close enough. Maybe just push this down a little bit. I think that's good. Okay, so now more is more. I'm going to layer these rustic kind of looking placemats. I could do a charger. This table is very narrow because I had it made for the kitchen when it used to be in the kitchen part. And it couldn't be too wide because we wouldn't be able to walk around it. So it's a little narrow. So we have dinner here, but I use the kitchen table as a buffet. I put all the food out and people got to walk and get their food. These plates I've had for a long time. They're reproductions that I bought in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I just like them. I like the black and the white and the gold, and the animals, different animals are so cute. Got some rabbits there. And I think I got an extra, so I'll use the dog here. So those are sweet. So before I go any further, I think I'll use my vintage turkeys as a centerpiece this year. We got this guy, and that's rosemary from my garden. And these guys are candles. Who says I can't be corny? Do these maybe, a little gaggle. I celebrate Thanksgiving like everybody else. Work too hard, cook a huge meal that everybody devours in 10 minutes, and traditional. I don't even like turkey, but I cook it. So I do like having people. And for a long time, when Alberto and I lived in New Orleans, New Orleans is a very friendly place, but it's very family. So you don't get invited to family gatherings. So a lot of times it would be just me and Alberto having Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner together. In New York, I could get 50 people for Thanksgiving or Easter or any time, easily because, it was a city of transplants. And here it's kind of the same. I had a Thanksgiving here for 14 people before the kitchen was expanded. We were tight. And I meant to do it outside, but the weather turned like it is today, so we had it inside. And I cleared out the center hall and made a big buffet table there so you could serve, and we sat in here. So this year, I didn't know if we could get a table full of people, but Dave has a friend coming from New Mexico, and I managed to get, I think we're going to be 6 or 7 this year. So perfect amount of people. So what else do I have? This is like some corny, cute stuff. John Darien, I'm sure you know, is an interior designer and has cool stores in New York and in Provincetown and Cape Cod. And he likes vintage things, and he makes, this is stuff that he sold at Target of all places. And I bought it last year, and it was just me and Dave last year for Thanksgiving. I couldn't get anybody up. But these things are so damn cute. I just thought I'd bring them out today and see if I am going to use them or not. I might not because I got something else going on, but I kind of think they're fabulous. And his collection at Target this year is pretty fabulous too. He has turkey pillows and platters and all kinds of things, and it's so reasonable. This whole box was like $10, and I think it's like so freaking cute. Here, we'll have those guys talking to each other. And I think I may just use those. And then, of course, we got like little scattery things, like little fruits and autumn leaves. Got to have an autumn leaf or two. Oop, oop, oop. Here, maybe I'll stick one in there for fun. Let me look in here. I have so many tricks. Oh, place cards. What place card do I want to use this year? I don't know. I save my place cards, and it's like going down memory lane, of people who have come to various dinners. And then I don't know if I'm going to use them, but I just want to show you the other thing that I keep. I have napkin rings, and some people like them and some people don't. I mean, I have some really cool ones. I mean, these all have numbers on them. They're like antique bone or something, and I just think they're really spectacular. My friend Michael Pelkey gives me a lot of these things. He calls them hostess gifts. These I love. They look like Hermes buckles or something. Oh, I just got these recently. Look at this duck, brass duck. Christmas ornaments, because, everybody loves a theme. Anyway, I love these little place card holders, and I also use them as menu holders. And I think it's nice to have a place card because I think it makes you feel special when you come over that you have a place for you. And it's not everybody standing around saying, well, where do you want me to sit? Where do you want me to sit? I call Michael Pelkey Mrs. Pelkey because he's my best, dearest, long-time gay friend, Mrs. Pelkey. He's known that way all over the world. And we also call each other Celeste. So Celeste, you're coming to Thanksgiving. He lives in Key West. You better book his ticket now. Okay. Anyway, you get the idea. They can also just be, laid on top of the plate or next to the plate. They don't have to be in the little. This is for Alberto just in memory because I miss him. It's my girlfriend Jessica. She just lost her husband John, who both sat at our table a lot. So Jessica, I hope you feel better and you come for Thanksgiving. Okay, so let me get rid of this. Okay, so next, the family silver. It's not really. I come from working class family. I never had family silver. But I bought these when I was in my 30s, and I love them. They're vintage. They're silver plate. They're not really sterling or anything, but I've used them ever since, and I just love them. I picked up, I think, a whole set once at a flea market or something. I don't know. I've had them forever. I can't remember everything, kids. I mean, I try. And once a year, I polish them, or actually dip them in Tarnex, which you're not supposed to do. And if you notice, I'm setting the fork downwards, something, a little affectation I picked up in France, and the feeling is that the putting the tines of the fork down is more hospitable. This way, it's aggressive. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so just do that. This was another hostess present from Michael Pelkey from Celeste. And he goes to a lot of estate sales and he buys things. He's an interior designer in Key West. So he finds things for his clients. So he sent me these perfectly pressed, beautiful vintage napkins. So I said, why don't I use them this year? And I don't have to iron any napkins. So thank you, Michael. So I think I will use a napkin ring just because I have them and they're cute. Mrs. Pelkey, you're number one. The idea of the number, I guess, back in the old days, you kept your napkin for a few meals. I mean, it sounds ghastly to us who are such a throwaway society, but you kept it and you would have the number or your name if you had engraved napkin rings, and so you could take your napkin and use it a few times before it got laundered. And voila, this is the table. I maybe out of some candlesticks later, I'll see how I feel about that. These are kind of special. I love this monkey. And maybe I'll move Mr. Turkey down. Anyway, it's a work in progress like anything. And I will definitely come back and tweak it later. But anyway, happy Thanksgiving. What does home mean to me? Home's something actually that you carry inside of yourselves. You can be anywhere, in a tent, sleeping in a box under the bridge, apartment, house, traveling. Home is something that you have deep within yourself. And that's what home means to me. It means having a sense of self, having confidence, having a love for beauty around you, being visually aware, being gracious and open and welcoming, and having fun, fun. That's what home means to me. Well, do you think I'm homeworthy? Homeworthy? Well, thanks for coming. Time to go. I'm going in now. I swear, no more talking. Peace, love, tango, happy Thanksgiving. Come back, maybe. Ciao.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.